Hello and welcome to our weekly Bible study. We're continuing our series in Ecclesiastes, and this week we're looking at Ecclesiastes 3, 16, and 17, and encountering some frustrations with a lack of justice and the presence of injustice. Let me go ahead and read those two short verses to you, and we'll jump on in. In verse 16, the preacher says, "Moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. I said in mine heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work." First of all, what do we see? We see that there is no justice under the sun. And the preacher is very familiar with this frustration. Notice the abrupt construction of verse number 16. Really, you could kind of a little more literally translate this as the place of judgment, iniquity was there. The place of righteousness, iniquity was there, right? The preacher shows the frustration that we all feel as we observe the world around us, as we hear news, as we see how our leaders behave and our halls of justice are operated, or as we experience personal injustice as well. And so he recognizes that feeling of frustration, right? And we do feel this when we observe how our politics function, how our legal system functions, and of course we experience personal injustice as well. Often we see and experience injustice. And notice again that phrase that we've seen over and over in our study, under the sun. Humanity has proven its tendency towards injustice. And so we're reminded that if all we have under the sun, that just like wisdom and labor and pleasure is vanity, emptiness, just a breath, fleeting, evasive, elusive, right? The same is true for justice, right? If all we have is this life under the sun, we're never truly going to experience justice. Injustice is always going to be present. Truly, if all we have under the sun is under the sun, then truly we have vanity. But that's not where the preacher leaves us. He's going to continue to explore this in the verses ahead. But in verse number 17, we see that even though there's injustice under the sun, that there is justice with God. And so we see the truth of that in verse number 17, where he says, God will judge, God shall judge, and nobody can escape it, right? Both the righteous and the wicked. Even though unrighteous humans will not act justly, God will. And that is such a great assurance, right? The people in power in this country and around the world, many times even our legal system is not set up very justly, right? That is frustrating, but when we understand that an all-powerful God will judge, there is wonderful assurance there. But I think that the preacher understands that we still in some ways have a frustration or a problem, even knowing that God will judge, and that is understanding that God will judge in his timing. So verse 17 doesn't just say that God will judge, it says there's a time there for every purpose. So God will judge, but God will judge in his timing. And one of the frustrations that we face comes not just from the injustice that we see, but also our lack of patience with God's justice. And so we want judgment now, but God doesn't operate on our personal timeline. He will judge in his time. And so once again, there's an element of trust that has to come in here when we consider life under the sun. We receive these things from God. We need to be patient and trust his timing here in the area of justice. So that's our ending question here this week. Will we trust God and let him judge his way and in his time? Or will we seek our own way, seek our own justice? And I think we have here a promise of frustration with that. So let me just close by reading from Romans 12, which I think sums up what we've looked at here this week pretty well. In Romans 12 and verse number 19, Paul says this, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." Well, some things to consider. I probably don't need to encourage you too much to look for injustice. We see it all around us, but I wonder if we can have a bigger vision of the Lord and His plan, and use this as an opportunity to deepen our trust and our faith in Him that He will judge. God bless you, and we'll see you next time as we continue in the book of Ecclesiastes.